Do you want a minute? We don't have to talk about...
No, sorry, I just started thinking about...
There are celebrity friendships. And then there are friendships that become part of television history. For nearly 3 decades, millions of people watched Jennifer Aniston and Matthew Perry make audiences laugh as Rachel Green and Chandler Bing on Friends. Their chemistry on screen felt effortless, but what many fans didn't realize was that behind the cameras, they had built a genuine friendship that lasted long after the final episode aired. Then, on October 28, 2023, the world woke up to heartbreaking news. Matthew Perry had died at the age of 54. Within minutes, social media exploded. Fans across the world couldn't believe it. Tributes poured in from actors, celebrities, and millions of viewers who had grown up watching Friends. But amid all the public reactions, one thing stood out. Jennifer Aniston didn't say anything. Days passed. Then weeks. Many people wondered why one of Matthew's closest friends had remained silent. Was she simply grieving in private? Or was the loss too painful to put into words? When Jennifer finally spoke publicly, her message wasn't long. It wasn't dramatic. But for millions of fans, it was one of the most emotional tributes anyone had shared. Because it reminded everyone that before they became television legends, they were simply friends. But to understand why Matthew Perry's passing affected Jennifer Aniston so deeply, we have to go back to where it all began. Long before Friends became one of the biggest television shows in history, Jennifer and Matthew were 2 young actors trying to build careers in Hollywood. When NBC brought 6 unknown actors together in 1994, nobody expected the series to become a worldwide phenomenon. Yet almost overnight, everything changed. Jennifer became Rachel Green. Matthew became Chandler Bing. Alongside Courtney Cox, Lisa Kudrow, Matt LeBlanc, and David Schwimmer, they created a show that would entertain generations for decades. What made Friends special wasn't just the writing. It was the chemistry. Viewers believed these 6 people truly cared about one another. And according to the cast themselves, that wasn't acting. Over 10 seasons, they became more than co-workers. They celebrated birthdays together, supported each other through career highs and personal struggles, negotiated contracts as a team, and built friendships that continued long after filming ended. Among those friendships, Jennifer and Matthew shared a unique bond. Matthew Perry often spoke about Jennifer's kindness. Years later, in his memoir Friends, Lovers, and the Big Terrible Thing, he revealed something that surprised many readers. While he was privately battling addiction, Jennifer noticed that something wasn't right long before much of the public understood the seriousness of his struggle. According to Matthew, Jennifer would quietly check on him. She cared enough to ask difficult questions. She wanted to know if he was okay. At a time when many people only saw a successful sitcom star, Jennifer saw a friend who was hurting. Matthew later admitted that those conversations stayed with him for years. Although he often tried to hide his addiction behind jokes and laughter, he knew Jennifer genuinely cared about his well-being. As Friends became one of television's biggest successes, Matthew's private battle with addiction grew more difficult. During different seasons of the show, he entered rehabilitation more than once. He later admitted that there were entire periods of filming he could barely remember because of his addiction. Yet despite everything happening behind the scenes, the cast continued supporting one another. Jennifer never turned Matthew's struggles into public gossip. She didn't give sensational interviews. She simply remained his friend. That quiet loyalty would become one of the defining parts of their relationship. When Friends ended in 2004, fans assumed the cast would slowly drift apart like many television ensembles do. But they didn't. They continued celebrating milestones together, supporting each other's projects, meeting privately away from cameras, and staying connected through the years. Matthew often described the cast as his second family. Jennifer was part of that family. Which is why, when news of Matthew's death spread around the world, millions of fans immediately thought about the 5 people who had spent 10 years growing up beside him. How were they coping? What were they feeling? And would they ever be able to speak about losing someone who had been such an important part of their lives? For Jennifer Aniston, the answer wasn't immediate. Some losses are simply too personal. Sometimes silence says more than words ever could. But when Jennifer finally decided to break that silence, she revealed something that reminded everyone why Matthew Perry meant so much not only to millions of fans, but to the people who knew him best. For nearly 3 weeks after Matthew Perry's passing, Jennifer Aniston remained completely silent. There were no interviews, No emotional television appearances. No lengthy social media posts. To many fans, that silence was unusual. Jennifer had shared countless memories with Matthew over almost 30 years. They had worked together through the biggest years of their careers and remained close long after Friends ended. So why wasn't she saying anything? The answer became clear when Jennifer finally spoke. Sometimes, grief is simply too personal to explain. Before Jennifer shared her own tribute, the entire Friends cast released a joint statement. They described themselves as more than cast Metesthi were a family. They asked for privacy as they tried to process an unimaginable loss and thanked fans around the world for the love they had shown Matthew. It was a short statement, but it carried enormous meaning. For the first time, the 5 remaining stars publicly acknowledged that they weren't just mourning a fellow actor. They were mourning someone they had grown up with. Then, on November 15, 2023, Jennifer Aniston posted her personal tribute. It immediately spread across the internet. Not because it was dramatic, but because it felt incredibly real. Jennifer shared a collection of photos and videos, including one of the two laughing together during the filming of Friends. It wasn't a glamorous Hollywood moment. It was 2 friends enjoying each other's company. She also shared a private text message Matthew had sent her shortly before his passing. In it, Matthew told her that making her laugh had made his day. That one message touched millions of people. It reminded fans that despite everything Matthew had struggled with, making people laugh remained one of the greatest joys of his life. Jennifer wrote that Matthew had become part of her daily life. Not just as a co-worker. Not just as a television star. But as someone she loved deeply. She said that talking to him was one of her favorite parts of every day. Then came the line that left fans heartbroken. Jennifer wrote that she loved Matthew so much and knew that he was finally free from pain. It wasn't just a goodbye. It was a message filled with compassion. For years, Jennifer had watched a friend fight a battle that few people truly understood. Matthew Perry himself never hid how difficult that battle had been. In interviews and in his memoir, he openly described decades of addiction, repeated trips to rehabilitation, health scares, and the emotional loneliness that often came with fame. One of the most touching moments in his memoir involved Jennifer herself. Matthew revealed that during the height of his addiction, Jennifer approached him privately. She gently told him that everyone knew he was struggling. According to Matthew, Jennifer wasn't trying to embarrass him. She wasn't judging him. She was trying to help. He later admitted that her concern came from genuine love and friendship. That moment stayed with him for years. It showed that Jennifer wasn't simply paying attention to the successful actor everyone else admired. She was paying attention to the person behind the fame. Looking back after Matthew's death, those memories carried even greater meaning. Many fans realized that Jennifer had spent years quietly supporting someone who was fighting an incredibly difficult battle. Not through headlines. Not through public speeches. But through simple acts of friendship. After Jennifer's tribute was published, millions of fans responded emotionally. Many said it felt like reading a letter from someone who had truly known Matthew beyond television. Others commented that Jennifer's words reflected exactly why the cast of Friends had always felt so genuine. Their friendship wasn't created for television. It existed long before the cameras started rolling. And it continued long after filming stopped. As people revisited old interviews, many discovered another emotional detail. Matthew Perry had often spoken about Jennifer with deep appreciation. He admired her kindness. He respected her honesty. And he never forgot the moments when she reached out during some of the darkest periods of his life. That mutual respect became one of the most meaningful parts of their friendship. But Jennifer's heartfelt message wasn't the end of the story. In the months that followed, she would continue honoring Matthew in quieter ways, while the Friends family looked for a way to turn their grief into something meaningful. Because although Matthew Perry was gone, his impact on the people who loved him was far from over. Matthew Perry often said that if people remembered him for only one thing, he hoped it wouldn't be Friends. He wanted people to remember that he spent years helping others fight addiction. He believed that if his own struggles could save even one life, then everything he had gone through would have meant something. After his passing, those words suddenly carried a much deeper meaning. His family established the Matthew Perry Foundation, an organization dedicated to helping people struggling with addiction and supporting recovery efforts. It reflected the mission Matthew had spoken about during the final years of his life, using his story to help others find hope. For Jennifer Aniston, that mission became another reason to remember her friend not only for his humor but also for his courage. Although Jennifer has kept much of her grieving private, her actions have shown that Matthew's memory continues to hold a special place in her heart. Unlike many celebrity friendships that fade after a television show ends, the bond between the Friends cast remained real for decades. They celebrated birthdays together. They supported one another during career changes. They stayed connected through marriages, divorces, personal victories, and painful losses. Matthew Perry wasn't simply Chandler Bing to them. He was Matthew, a friend they had laughed with for years, a co-worker who became family, and someone they never stopped caring about. As fans looked back at old interviews, reunion specials, and behind-the-scenes footage, many noticed something they hadn't paid much attention to before. Whenever Jennifer and Matthew were together, there was an effortless comfort between them. They laughed naturally. They teased each other like old friends. There was no need to perform for the cameras. Their friendship felt genuine because it truly was. Even during the 2021 Friends reunion, viewers saw moments that now feel especially emotional. The 6 cast members shared memories, laughed about old stories, and reflected on the incredible journey they had experienced together. At the time, it felt like a celebration. Looking back after Matthew's passing, many fans watched those scenes with completely different emotions. They realized it would be the last time all 6 friends would appear together. For Jennifer, those memories have likely become even more meaningful. Sometimes the moments we think are ordinary become priceless after someone is gone. Matthew Perry's death also reminded people of something much bigger than celebrity news. Addiction doesn't care how successful someone is. It doesn't care about fame, money, awards, or worldwide recognition. Matthew had millions of fans. He was loved across the world. Yet he still fought a battle that many people never fully understood. Throughout his life, he spoke openly about that struggle because he wanted others to know they weren't alone. Jennifer understood that better than most. She had watched her friend fight that battle for years. She had seen both his happiest moments and some of his hardest ones. That's why her tribute wasn't focused on headlines or Hollywood. It focused on friendship, on kindness, on laughter, and on remembering Matthew for the joy he brought into other people's lives. Today, Jennifer Aniston continues moving forward with her career, balancing acting, producing, and other projects while maintaining the privacy that has always been important to her. She rarely discusses deeply personal matters in public, but when she does, it's clear that the people she loves remain close to her heart. Matthew Perry's memory is one of those lasting connections. His influence didn't end with Friends. His books continue reaching readers around the world. His interviews continue inspiring people fighting addiction. And his performances continue making new generations laugh. That may be the greatest legacy any actor can hope to leave behind. Not just unforgettable characters, but unforgettable kindness. Looking back now, Jennifer Aniston's words weren't shocking because they revealed a hidden secret. They were powerful because they reminded us of something simple. Real friendship doesn't disappear when the cameras stop rolling. It doesn't end when television shows finish. And it doesn't fade after years apart. True friendship stays with us through every chapter of life. Even goodbye. Perhaps that's why millions of people connected so deeply with Jennifer's tribute. It wasn't written by a celebrity speaking about another celebrity. It was written by a lifelong friend saying goodbye to someone she loved. And in that moment, millions of fans around the world weren't just remembering Chandler Bing. They were remembering Matthew Perry, the man who made people laugh, the man who fought difficult battles with remarkable honesty, and the man whose friendship left a lasting mark on everyone fortunate enough to know him. His story reminds us that behind every smile, there may be struggles we cannot see. Behind every famous face is a real person hoping to be understood. And behind every lasting friendship is a bond that time can never erase. If you enjoyed this documentary, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more emotional celebrity documentaries, untold Hollywood stories, and the lives behind the headlines. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.